Well, look at that. There you are, folks. And there's even people in the comments already, which is great. So maybe I don't need to give the directions, but I'm going to give the directions anyway. How about that? We do this live every week, Emily and myself. And what we look for is for you to put your comments, your questions, communication into the chat so we know that you're there. And if you have any questions, we can answer them through this kind of screen shared, technology and wonder thing that we call StreamYard. So if you would put your questions in chat and, look at people that are already in the comments that seem to know the deal, like Delphine. Delphine's with us quite often. She says, good morning from Merritt, BC, Canada. By the way, you guys inadvertently answered our burning question last week without realizing it. The access plan was the clue that solved the problem. Many thanks. That's awesome. It's great when things come together. Gary, welcome to the call. Gary says, good morning from Winnipeg. He is also from Canada. And it's just awesome to see people come in and say hi. Jab, I see you in there. I see you've got some questions, so we'll be sure to get to you in just a heartbeat here. But we wanted to encourage people, questions and things like that in the chat. That would be fantastic. The next thing I want to say is that if you listen to us today, or if you see things on screen today and you go, man, I got to try this thing, LifterLMS.com/try, LifterLMS.com/try. For just $1, you get a 30-day hosted example that's fully populated. All of the Infinity Bundle add-ons are in there. You can play with things. You can add things. You can do all kinds of things in this website. But it's not like you're going to break it and ruin your server because we're hosting it for you. It's there for 30 days. If you were looking at the Universe Bundle and you weren't sure, you would just get the demo site and go into plugins and deactivate the add-ons that are the Infinity Bundle and leave the stuff that's there from the Universe Bundle. And then you see what you got to work with, see what's left. So there's all kinds of ways that you can use that tool. It's a really good thing for me. And then lastly, before we get on to questions and having real conversations, is you can get your own coupon for LifterLMS 55% off at lifterlms.com/AMA-gift, lifterlms.com/AMA-gift. And with that, I'm going to put away my ShamWow persona and welcome Emily to the call. Emily, it's awesome to see you.
Thank you. It's nice to see you too.
I got my apron yesterday.
No way. Wait, you got to bring that on the stream. That was really fast for Printful.
Yeah, I took pictures. I put the pictures into Slack. Let me put one up on a screen share. I was making steaks yesterday. So have you ever seen people on like social media, like food influencers, and they say, oh, get a chuck roll from Sam's Club and you can hack that sucker down into like 20 steaks?
That's not who I follow, but I'm sure they do that.
That's not who I follow. That's who I follow. So I got a chuck roll. It was 21 or 22 pounds. It was bigger than that. I think it was 26 pounds. Who cares? Who cares? It was $185. So I bought this $185 chunk of meat, of beef, and then I put it in the freezer for an hour and 15 minutes so that it would firm up, not be frozen, but it would firm up. And then I took a sharp knife and I just started slicing it down. I sliced steaks out of the ends, and in the middle, I left like a 3.5-inch, giant slab of beef. And that's going to be a chuck roast that I'm going to smoke on my smoker. But if you look on the cutting board in the picture, that is 3 of the steaks that I cut out of the chuck roll. And this was my first experiment in cooking steaks that you cut out of a chuck roll. They came out really good. My wife said that she preferred the steak over my brisket. Now, I don't know where you're at with this, Emily. I don't know if you understand how hurtful that was. But, I put about 18, 19 hours into making a really good brisket. And then my wife said, oh, I like the steak. I like it better than your brisket. I wanted to just slit my wrist right there at the dinner table. But that's the apron that you got me right there.
That's awesome. That thing is huge.
It is huge, which is good because I'm fat. So there it is from another perspective. There I am looking not so fat. Oh, that's me. That's me doing the chuck roll. You don't want to see that. There it is closer. And there it is with my fatness next to the grill. So having a good time. So I really appreciate it. I like that you guys were thinking of me. I felt loved when I opened my package. You don't even care. You're just staring at your phone. So let's go into this. Jab has some questions. So let's just jump right in. It says, can you please explain how the WooCommerce add-on works? The premium version from LifterLMS. So typically I do a little bit of talking and Emily does some screen shares. So maybe she can open that up in a screen to share it with you, Jab. But in a nutshell, when I first got involved with WooCommerce and LifterLMS, I got confused, just being honest with you. When I first tried WooCommerce integration, it confused the wheels off of me. And then somewhere along the line, I just made this realization. And I think that the way that I say it makes it easier for people to understand. Every product in LifterLMS can have up to 6 access plans. And an access plan is how you give people access to your product. Whether it's a membership or a course, it needs an access plan to manage who can see the content, right? So you have to have an access plan. If you had the native payment gateway in LifterLMS, that access plan would be charging the Stripe account or the PayPal account or their authorized.net account, would be charging that and automating the access to that product. What the WooCommerce integration does is it allows you to use WooCommerce as like a cash register for your own department store, right? So you can sell coffee mugs and tapestries, and you can integrate with Printful, and you can do all kinds of cool things with WooCommerce. But when it comes to the LifterLMS stuff, you're still going to use the access plans to give people access to your content, but you're just going to create a sister product in the WooCommerce that's going to connect the two, so that if somebody buys that product in WooCommerce, that connection is going to activate the access plan and take care of the access to the product. So hopefully that description makes more sense. When I tried to read the directions and use it the first couple of times, I didn't really get it. But then when someone kind of like articulated it to me, you just have to have a sister product that matches the access plan. So you have your product, and then you have the representation of that product in your shopping cart. And so people can make that purchase in the shopping cart, and it accesses and activates the purchase in the access plan. And that's basically what it's really doing. But Emily, would you be prepared to kind of show activating it and what it looks like?
Yeah, you mean like a walkthrough of WooCommerce?
Yeah, kind of like a quick walkthrough. Because just to be clear, Jab, and for other people, remember, sometimes our answers are more involved than what you expect. That's because other people see this content, and it's not just to answer your question, but it's for people that watch the replay as well, so they get a full answer. So when you install an add-on with LifterLMS, you typically have to go in through settings, into integrations, enable that feature, and then use that feature. A lot of people miss the enabling part. So they'll install an add-on and then they just assume it doesn't work, but you actually have to enable it and turn it on.
Yeah, and WooCommerce is one that requires a lot of setup. So you have to meticulously go through our setup documentation or like our getting started videos, because like Kurt said, it does kind of change the structure of your LMS site and how it functions when we're using courses and memberships normally, and we're creating access passes. Let's make sure WooCommerce is off and the LifterLMS WooCommerce is there. And there's some nuance to it. So when we're editing our access plans in the LifterLMS core product, when we're using Stripe, PayPal, or authorized.net directly from LifterLMS, we're going to see an interface that looks like this, where we can set something to be paid and we can set all the payment settings here. But when we activate and enable the WooCommerce extension, which does require WooCommerce to be on your website, you'll need the LifterLMS WooCommerce extension and WooCommerce itself to be installed. So WooCommerce and LifterLMS at their core are free plugins, but like you said in the comment, LifterLMS WooCommerce is a paid integration included in our bundles that integrates the two for payment processing. And so when we have that activated, we have to enable it So like Kurt said, there's some setup here, LifterLMS settings, integrations. We'll find WooCommerce on our list of so many things. There it is in the middle. We need to make sure that that is enabled. So the plugin needs to be installed, activated, and enabled here in the settings. And then there are some settings for when we determine users are going to be enrolled in a product based on the order status in WooCommerce. So when you're managing a WooCommerce store alongside LifterLMS, you might also find that LifterLMS orders appear here. So these are LifterLMS's orders. And then when you want to find WooCommerce orders, you hover for WooCommerce and have orders. So you have to be like super cognizant of what's going on the back end of your website. As a developer, a lot of times I see this customized because my clients are like, I see nothing in the orders area. It's like, well, no, you're using WooCommerce. So you're going to go to WooCommerce orders. And this is where all of our WooCommerce product purchases are going to come in. And WooCommerce functions off of products. So if you're selling physical and digital products or just physical products, we have some example products here, like a jacket, a hat, and the crypto course. The crypto course is one of the courses inside of LifterLMS. So conveniently, the demo site already has this populated crypto apps. So let's say we wanted to connect the crypto apps course to this product that had been created. With the LifterLMS WooCommerce integration, you have to tie every course or membership that you're trying to sell to a WooCommerce product so that it has a connection to say when this product is purchased, enroll them in this course. So we have our crypto course product. It doesn't even have a price in WooCommerce. So let's set a price of $50. Let's create a virtual product. And we can make it downloadable if we want to. I'm going to make it downloadable in this case. The nuance to virtual and downloadable is that when a product is marked as virtual, it automatically sets the order to be processing. So usually when someone purchases on your website, if they were to buy a physical product like a t-shirt, you would need to process and fulfill that order yourself as a store owner, unless you have an automation set up through like Printful or an on-demand service to fulfill the order for you. But what we want to say is this is a virtual product, so we don't need to physically fulfill the product. And we want to say it's downloadable so that it automatically sets to completed. This is kind of a subtle setting, and I might be a little over-explaining here, but for any users working with WooCommerce, this is relevant. When we go to integrations and WooCommerce in LifterLMS, where we were, the order enrollment status I mentioned before says completed. So it's only going to enroll the person in the course when they have an order that is completed. So that's why we have to check both virtual and downloadable. If you wanted to change this order status to processing, then we could just check that virtual box. But you just need to make sure that your settings in the product are analogous to the order enrollment status so that people are not making purchases, not getting enrolled in your courses, and then you're confused about what's going on. WooCommerce is a little bit more of an advanced integration because there's some nuance like this. But we have virtual downloadable checked, which means the products will be set to be completed when they're purchased. It's $50. Let's update the product. Completed is what's set up in my enrollment status. And now I can edit my crypto course and change my access plans. Let's say a la carte course. Oh, look, it's already associated. But what we would do here is we would click on the WooCommerce product. We would find the WooCommerce product from our product catalog, select it, and then save our access plan. And then when that product is purchased, we will receive an enrollment in this course. So that's a fast overview of how to integrate WooCommerce, install, activate, enable, make sure your order enrollment status, you're paying attention to what that is, make sure your products are virtual or virtual downloadable, depending on how you configured your setting. And then you can use all your WooCommerce functions to fulfill into courses and memberships through Lifter.
Yeah, thanks, Emily. That's
yeah.
There's so much detail to using WooCommerce and using it successfully. There are, I work with a lot of clients, and I get frequent questions on the WooCommerce connections and what it does, and how we leverage other tools in WooCommerce besides LifterLMS. And so a lot of times when people are using WooCommerce, they have, almost an octopus of a website, right? They're connecting to this, connecting to that, connecting to the other thing. And that the trick is to try, what you're trying to do is you're trying to simplify the experience for the end user, right? You want them to have a single purchase experience to be able to buy multiple things within your cart or your store. And so if you set it up correctly, your store includes your membership options and your course materials. And so that's what that whole integration is about, is just being able to automate the access plans by using a trigger from WooCommerce. All right.
Yeah. And if I could add one more thing, you always have to make sure when you're using WooCommerce that you require users have an account when they make a purchase. That's something we didn't talk about, but in the WooCommerce settings, you can optionally let people create accounts when they purchase or let them check out as a guest, but we cannot let people check out as a guest when we're using LifterLMS because we need to create them a user and enroll them in a course. So make sure that you are creating accounts on WooCommerce checkout.
Exactly. And if you think that through, it makes total sense. How can you automate giving someone access to a course if you have no one to associate the course with, right? But like these things come up. I've had corporate clients actually tell me, oh no, we want people to be anonymous. Well, how are you going to track their progress? How are you going to give them a certificate? Oh, we thought they'd put that in later. I'm like, what's the difference between upfront and later? You're still collecting the information. And so understanding how the system works and why it works that way can be the most important part of our consulting role, is because a lot of people are just confused as to why there's an order to things or why things have to work a certain way. Remember that with WordPress, it's usually, bare minimum, you have to have an email address and a password, at least an email address and a password, and everything in WordPress is tracked by the email address. And so keep those kinds of things in mind. The same email address can only buy the same product from LifterLMS once. And so if they're trying to buy multiple copies in their own name and then assign other students and things like that, you need to look at other tools. We have a groups function for that. You could sell people cohorts. You could do the manual payment gateway and then assign separate users. I mean, there's a ton of different ways that you could do that stuff, but those are some of the, usually they hook up WooCommerce and they think there's a WooCommerce issue because certain purchase plans don't work the way they think they should. But you have to think it through. You have to go, oh, well, that's how this works and why it works that way, and kind of understand that. And sometimes you need to reach out to an expert. That's a great segue. Look at that. Sometimes you need to reach out to an expert. Let me find it. We have a thing that says it. Why can't I find it? Where's it at? We have a link for that. I was trying to find it. I was trying to be sly. Ask your questions, get your LifterLMS. Oh, there it is. Hire an expert. Boom, right at the bottom. So if you want to find an expert, go to lifterlms.com/experts, lifterlms.com/experts. You can hire someone to do your whole project. You could get help on a project. You could do some consulting. Whatever your needs are pretty much in that link. So you can find that. Emily is there under WP Course Guide or Magic Emily Middleton. Can't remember. I'm under Mañana No Mas. And then, of course, we've got, just a really great collection of vetted professionals in there to help you. So that'll totally work as well. Gary, Delphine, okay, that's all there. David, you had a question. One was, are we going to start soon? But too late, we're already here. The other one is, I just moved from LearnDash. Okay. For other folks that are listening, if you are on LearnDash and you have an extensive course library, there is a referred tool in our recommended resources. It's from Honors WP. It's called Transfer. It's a transfer plugin, and that will help you automate some of the tasks of moving things from a LearnDash installation to a LifterLMS installation. And yeah, you got to read the directions and take your time, dot your I's and cross your T's, obviously, because you're talking about moving a lot of data. But it works really well. Emily and I have used it before, and it's nice to know that you don't have to manually move everything. You can move user data. You can move all kinds of stuff. So I would recommend if it's a large project that I got to be really specific how I answer questions or give advice. A large project with a lot of content, it can be advantageous to use that transfer plugin with WP Honors. If it's one course with 10 lessons and you've got 25 pre-existing users, chances are you could just copy and paste and move everything over and don't worry about it. But there's that, right? So anyway, let's go on. It says, I just moved from LearnDash and I love LifterLMS. The only thing, does it have a way, native or Infinity add-ons, to track continuing education credits earned versus needed using the Grassblade and SCORM? Okay, so congratulations using Grassblade and SCORM. I'm kind of curious, Dave, did you refer to our course on converting SCORM to using the WordPress space? Did you use our course to figure out how to do that, or did you already know how to do that? Like that's one of my questions, assuming that you're still live with us. But the other thing is, I have had multiple people ask me this question about tracking continuing education credits. One of them was a really cool, unique thing. It had to do with medical training, and this organization was going to be like the central hub for the government to track continuing education credits, not only through the site, but through other providers. And so what we had to engineer was an actual form, a submission form. And I think in this case, it's been a while since I looked at the project, but I think we used a Gravity form. And so they would upload the documents from whatever that third-party training was, and the number of hours or continuing education credit hours that they had. They would upload that, and then the form would kind of morph through an automation that had to be developed, and it would add to a column that we added in LifterLMS reporting. So it was like number of hours made versus number of hours required for recertification. It was a medical thing. They had to recertify so many hours every year. And so I can't remember the exact specs, whether it was 24 or 26 hours or something like that. But that was the continuous number, right? In the one column, how many hours required, but how many hours earned. It would be what was tracked in the site also versus what was tracked externally and then uploaded or data changed through this form submission. So I'm taking a long time to answer this question. I'm really sorry, Dave. David, I shouldn't shorten your name without asking your permission first. Can you do it? Yes. Is it out of the box? No. It has to be developed. Of course, Emily's on the call. She could tell me something totally different. Maybe I'm crazy. But for me, we added 2 columns to the LifterLMS reporting, and then customize the display of that reporting so that it showed up. Emily, what say you?
Yeah, I think like you said, tracking progression through curriculum directly, it's complicated in LifterLMS out of the box, right? You can install your videos, but you can't make sure people watch them unless you're using something like advanced videos, but that has certain requirements. And if you're using interactive content like Grassblade or SCORM content, you can't really do it with LifterLMS out of the box without integrating that. But maybe like GamiPress is one of those things where you can say like, oh, I'm going to use points as continuing education credits. So like you receive a certain amount of credits and then you get a certificate or something like that. Your credits could go away 1 year from when you earn them automatically. There's some interesting things you could do, but I think getting over the hurdle of using SCORM content and figuring out how to integrate that is going to be the most important thing to work around if that's required.
A GamiPress integration is an interesting way to attack that. I hadn't really looked at that before. So that's interesting. I'll take a look at that. If they're using Grassblade and Grassblade LRS, and that LRS is synced with LifterLMS reporting, and they're the only source of the training, then it could be so many credit hours, afforded for each completed course. Like there's ways to do that and add those elements to the reporting feature. But again, I go back to that's all development. That's not stuff out of the box. That's stuff that would have to be customized.
Mm-hmm.
Jaw at YouTube. So this is different than Jab, right? So maybe they're working together. I don't know. Recently bought the $1 trial from LifterLMS. However, the WooCommerce option wasn't available in the checkout option. I think we covered that in the screen share. If you go into LifterLMS settings, integrations, and enable it, you should be able to enable the feature. Just because it's installed doesn't mean it works straight out of the box. You have to enable it, and then once it's enabled, you should be able to adjust its settings and do a sample purchase. And then depending on, test mode, like for instance, when I do a Stripe integration, I use Stripe's own test credit card to do some things. And so that helps me test even in a live situation. They have a fake credit card that I can use. So depending on what option you chose for checkout, if they have a special test credit card or something like that, that's a really great way to test it as a user. I always recommend testing a website as a user, not just looking at things the way the administrator sees things. Because remember, LifterLMS is a dynamic product. So the administrator can see something, a visitor can see something, and a student can see something different. And so to me, it's important to look at the website from the three perspectives.
Yeah, and I could also put up here when you're saying WooCommerce isn't available in the checkout options. I'm assuming you're looking at LifterLMS settings checkout and then missing it because you're like, where's WooCommerce on this page? And it's not here. It's under integrations. We consider that an integration. So visit that page instead.
Bada boom, bada bing. Screen share to the rescue again. All right. Folks, we got about 32 minutes left. So I'm going to repeat what I said earlier. If you have any questions or comments, I'd love for you to jump in, add those to the list for us because we're working through them. And we have a way to submit questions before the call. So I'll check that spreadsheet as well to make sure that we're getting everybody covered. Jab says, to be honest, Stripe and PayPal are unavailable in my country. I feel that pain. I have customers all over the world, and there's lots of times we got to come up with some. I have a customer that has a lot of clients in India, and India has some crazy rules about like subscriptions and credit card usage. So we actually have a strategy on one of the websites where we have to break a subscription into multiple purchases. And so like the first purchase is $49. The second purchase is $50. They can't get access to anything until they complete the second purchase. Once they complete the second purchase, it automates the access plans. We had to build a lot to make it work for the user to be able to get through it smoothly because of the rules in India. So I totally get it. I understand that your location can create different things. You say you want to integrate a local payment option. Can you please help me with the integration process before I purchase the bundle and sell the courses? Other than the screen share, to be honest with you, really not. Unless, of course, you hire one of the experts or something like that. Jab, when you install the WooCommerce integration, you are basically going to go into WooCommerce. Like, so you do the integration with Lifter, just like we showed you. All of that is straight out of like, boom, Bob's your uncle, things work. But hooking up your country's designated special payment option is going to be directly through the WooCommerce payment settings. And so you'll basically just have to work with WooCommerce, the documentation from WooCommerce, and set that specific payment method up through WooCommerce. And then, like I said earlier, hopefully they have a way for you to do test purchases. And you just want to do a test purchase as a student, as a make-believe student, to make sure that it actually works and functions for you. I wish that there was a different answer, but that's the answer that we would have right there. Gary says, by the way, usually when someone says, by the way, there's going to be an insult directly after that. By the way, good job with the reCAPTCHA. Thank you. All right. One note, do not install another plugin like Best West or Grupska. That must be a Canadian CAPTCHA thing, Grupska. Yeah. To me, reCAPTCHA tools are like caching tools. You get them competing with each other inside a website, and you got a nightmare on your hands especially if you're on a dynamic site, people logging in, logging out, and doing things. So, absolutely. If you use the LifterLMS reCAPTCHA, make sure you disable your other reCAPTCHA tools if you've got those activated and working. It can cause a conflict. Anything to say on that, Emily?
No. I mean, we have some tutorials that just went out, the Feature Fridays, about how to both use reCAPTCHA and Turnstile if you wanted to use one or the other. of those new LifterLMS security settings.
Not for nothing, your last couple of Feature Fridays on a Tuesday have been really great. You guys are knocking it out of the park.
Thank you.
If people aren't already aware, there is a Feature Friday deal that we do. You'll see them online. It's Feature Friday. They film them every Tuesday, which is why I say very much tongue-in-cheek. Feature Friday filmed on a Tuesday. But we go over the different features in LifterLMS, and they're like little micro-learning segments. So typically it's Chris, the owner of LifterLMS, and Emily, and they go through and, introduce a topic, how to do it, what's the importance of it, blah, blah, blah. And they're really well received. And so if you look those up online, you can do Feature Friday. You'll see them. We post them live all the time. They're great to check out. The last couple of them, out of the park. They've just been really, really, really good. I checked the spreadsheet and there's no questions there. So folks, we're going to be depending on you to give us some content. And I really don't want to talk about what's on social media today. So I'm doing my best to try and not float around and look at other screens. So also, do you guys support PPP? All right, I give up. Emily, do you know what PPP is?
I
know what OPP is. That was a cool song when I was growing up.
And
you down with OPP? Yeah, you know me.
The PPP in Nepal can refer to either public-private partnership for infrastructure development, which is government-initiated, for private investment gross domestic product, or purchasing power parity, an economic standard metric to compare a country's income by adjusting the cost of living. I would assume that means, like, do we adjust the cost of Lifter per region in the world as a commodity? I don't know. Well, I mean, kind of. We have the scholarship program, right? That's
we
probably
do have the scholarship program. Yeah.
So
you could go to LifterLMS.com, go to search. In the search, type in scholarship, and you can apply for a scholarship. We alternate pricing based on needs, nonprofits, the good you do in the world, those kinds of things. And so that would definitely be a channel to look at if that's the question. Not sure if that's really the question or not, because, I'm down with OPP and me. That's how that works. Delphine says, I bet it's really spectacular scenery there with those wonderful high mountains, Mount Everest. Obviously talking to Jab about Nepal. So that's awesome. And I love when people interact with each other in the chat. I think it's cool. I think it's really cool that we have a community like that, Emily, where people like actually chat. We have the active Facebook channel. We have a developer Slack channel. If people are a little more advanced, like we talked about, having things developed, right? And so we have developers, we have friends in the space, we have people that integrate with our product. They can jump into the developer Slack. We have a developer.lifterlms.com that has more information for people that are interested in development and doing things that are, little like not out of the box. But then we have a very active Facebook page. We have a Facebook page that's just for Universe and Infinity Bundle users. And there's a lot of interactivity there, which to me is one of the blessings of using LifterLMS. I've been with LifterLMS now. It's hard to believe, but I think I'm going on 11 years. And so building these products and using the product and being involved in the community has been a really cool thing for me, because I wasn't in the WordPress community prior to LifterLMS. So kudos to you, Delphine. Bada boom. Scholarship request. Look at you putting a link right in there. LifterLMS.com/scholarship request. All right. What else you got to talk about, Emily?
LifterLMS groups is a hot topic lately. I have just finished a huge job involving customizing LifterLMS groups to an extreme degree. And then I had someone yesterday be like, hey, can we customize like our third-party service we connected to like school systems, so that if you have a Moodle LMS or you have a Brightspace LMS, you can use LifterLMS content that you create, sell it to a college, and then they can integrate this directly with their gradebook so that they can receive grades from students who are in your LMS and instructors also have an integration. It's pretty cool. Stephen Vickers of LTI fame. LTI 1.3 came out recently. This is basically like learning tools interoperability of like, we call Lifter an LMS, and it can fully function as an LMS. It provides courses, it provides grades, but schools also have their LMSs that are these kind of ancient like monsters that the technology is awkward. It's not as up to date as like the free range WordPress people are used to. And so it's cool that like these systems are starting to integrate. So educators are able to build digital curriculum and sell that digital curriculum back to schools rather than building hard curriculum. Oh, is this the moment? Are you playing sound effects?
I'm doing sound effects because you're talking about cool stuff.
Right. And so that's becoming more of a thing. So if you're an LMS agency, you might want to learn about LTI and this kind of thing if you're interested in working with bigger educational companies, because that's becoming more capable of supporting things like LifterLMS and LearnDash or WordPress LMSs. But yeah, so groups functionality is a big part of this, like bigger organizations getting involved with curriculum you're developing. And I always encourage people to pursue that. But yesterday, my recommendation was don't upgrade your tech more by integrating groups as a part of your LTI process. Let's instead focus on marketing and selling the product to other organizations. And so that's kind of what we leaned into as marketing. Like, right, like oh, you're muted, Kurt.
I had to mute myself because my dog was barking.
Yes.
Someone went down the street on one of those hoverboards and my dog lost his mind.
Your dog's very excited about the LTI as well.
Very excited about the LTI. With my corporate training background and SCORM background, I can't even explain to people how relieved I was to like escape and get to the Lifter side of WordPress and just build stuff that I could sell and move and be a creator. It's so funny because, and I know that people are on this call right now that use SCORM, so I get it. Like you have this thought or this belief that it's high tech or that it's modern or whatever, but when you look at it, it was like the last version of SCORM, I think, was 2012 or something. Like, it's old, and trying to have these new systems conform to that dated process, there is a challenge there. And so I keep wishing that there was something other than Grassblade that I could recommend. Like, if you're in America and you try to purchase Grassblade, it'll actually fail. Like, you can't buy it. You have to email them and say, I tried to buy it and it didn't work. And then go, oh, try this link instead. And it's a different payment gateway, right? So there's obviously something's up there, right? And at the end of the day, do you get a copy of Grassblade? Do you get to use it? Yeah, you do. But they don't have things that we've come to expect. Like, from an agency perspective, I have come to expect that I can buy an agency level tool and do unlimited websites for $1,000 or unlimited websites for $2,000, like whatever the number is. But Grassblade is a single site license. Grassblade LRS is a single site experience. WooCommerce subscriptions is a single site license. WooCommerce, did I say WooCommerce experience? WooCommerce subscriptions is what I meant to say. WooCommerce subscriptions is a single site license. And so when we go through these tools and make these recommendations, or you look at our recommended resources in LifterLMS, we've done the legwork. We've tried some other things. And then it's like, well, we're right back at Grassblade again. And then that's where we're at. The most recent content we put out on Grassblade and Grassblade LRS, I think, was about a year ago. And that was, we had tried 3 or 4 other things. Literally, I tried 3 or 4 other things, and they just weren't as solid or reliable as Grassblade. So that's why we keep recommending Grassblade. Let's see. LMA. That's a new one. I haven't seen you before. Welcome to the call. Welcome to the call. Is there an alternate front end that doesn't look like WordPress that can be used by course creators who can just create courses but not do anything else? Is that can look like WordPress that can be used by course creators who can create courses but not do anything else. Okay, I think you're talking about a course marketplace. I'm just guessing here. I'm throwing caution into the wind. I want to change subjects. I think you're talking about a course marketplace. Let me talk first about design in WordPress. You can design whatever you want. All cards are off the table. Like you can design whatever you want in WordPress. I have another show that I do with another co-host, and we frequently review different SaaS platforms: Kajabi, Podia, Learnupon, Bridge. I'm trying to think of all the different ones that we've done recently, where we look at these SaaS platforms, and invariably, what's happening in these SaaS platforms is you might have a couple of templates to choose from, but a Kajabi site looks like a Kajabi site. A Podia site looks like a Podia site. Learnupon is horrible. Learnupon's great for holding your SCORM content and giving users access to stuff. It is, but assembling the course in Learnupon and seeing the lack of design freedom that you get in Learnupon is an absolute nightmare. So when people come to us and they go, well, can I change the front end look of my website in with WordPress? Yeah, you can design whatever you want. You are not restricted at all with WordPress. What you might be restricted by is not understanding how a modern page builder works, or how a page builder integrates with LifterLMS, or even things like the newest page builder coming out now is called Etch. When you install Etch into a WordPress installation, you install LifterLMS, and then you go to the homepage to start making edits, you know what you see? Nothing. Goose egg. There's nothing there. There's not even a sample like welcome to WordPress. Like there's nothing. It's blank. You have a completely blank screen to design whatever your heart's desire is inside that framework. And then you can create templates to run the course. You can create templates to run the lesson. You can create templates to run the quiz. Like you could literally design whatever you wanted in there. And so the key to remember is that LifterLMS, and I know that this probably sounds like a little bit of a rant right now, so I apologize if I feel ranty. I'm having some other distractions in the background, so I apologize if I sound ranty. It's not the case. My intention is always to help. You can design whatever you want. So like, especially in Etch, it's a blank canvas. You can build whatever you want in there, and it can look and feel like whatever you want it to look and feel like. Elementor, you have a lot of design freedom in Elementor. Divi, not my favorite tool, but you got a lot of design freedom in Divi. And those tools that I'm mentioning give you the ability to create templates that you can apply to the custom post types that are courses, lessons, and memberships. So you can design a lot of stuff, which you don't have any of that freedom in those SaaS platforms that I mentioned earlier. Like you have some templates to choose from, but you don't really have any design freedom. You can do whatever you want. LifterLMS will adapt or adopt styling cues from your theme. So for instance, let's say that you're new to LifterLMS, or you're new to WordPress in general, and you might be hearing like, oh, well, this just looks bland. Well, yeah, it looks bland. It's just dynamic content that's being imported into the theme that you've chosen for your WordPress project. So let's say I install Astra. Astra is a super popular theme. I put Astra in my site, and then I install LifterLMS. And let's say I go and I look at the dashboard. The dashboard's going to look a certain way. Then let's say I take out Astra and I put in Cadence. Cadence is another really popular theme. And I go to that same dashboard page. It's going to look different. And you go, oh, why does it look different? Well, it's still the same dynamic content, but it is adjusting to fit the theme and the way you've chosen the theme. So now if you go, 3 steps beyond that, you could have a page builder in Elementor and customize that. You can build custom pages and then use shortcodes to inject the content. That's another avenue to do that. Or like I mentioned, let's say you went with something like Etch. With Etch, you can design something completely the way you want it and still use shortcodes to inject the content that you want to inject. And then this is where Emily's really an expert and not me. I'm getting better. Emily, I'm getting better. You can use custom CSS to alter any of these things. And so if I have a person on my team inside my agency, because I'm not a fan of custom CSS. I'm getting better at it, but I'm still not a fan. when a customer comes to me and says, oh, I need to redesign this to have a custom header, custom hero image, or I want to split these into, instead of having a row of menu options, I want to have like a picture of clouds. And in the clouds, I want 3 options in each cloud. Like whatever you want to build it. You can do it with custom CSS and run it. Bob's your uncle. You're good to go. So I'm not going to say like I lose my patience with it. That's not what I want to say. That's the wrong way to say it. But when someone says, is there an alternate front end that doesn't look like WordPress? Yeah, whatever you build, like, because you can build whatever you want. The other part of your question where it says can be used by course creators who can just create courses but not do anything else. That is more of a marketplace setup. And so with a little bit of custom development, you can move what we call the course builder. You could move the course builder to the front end of the site, and you could use some type of affiliate program or a marketplace add-on, maybe through WooCommerce, or a marketplace add-on through something else, where you allow people to sign up as an affiliate or as a different type of creator role, and then give them access to the course builder through the front end. So not only let them build the course through the front end, but if you do like an affiliate type setup, you would be able to set up a revenue split that's automated, so that if they put a course in your website and it sells, you can automate the revenue split between the creator and yourself. We have resources on this in the LifterLMS website. If you go to LifterLMS.com, you go to the search box and you put in marketplace or Udemy, Udemy. You search for Udemy. We have a couple of resources like how to build your own Udemy clone, or how to build a course marketplace. And we have multiple episodes on our podcast from people that have built these marketplaces and have put those up. Now, before I totally bail out of this whole conversation, we did have a podcast, and we also, I want to say we did a screen share on one of our office hour calls with somebody named Chris Lassiter. Chris Lassiter is on our experts page as well. And so I'm normally not one to like really promote an individual like this, but Chris went on a big AI tangent. And as part of that AI tangent, he made a course for teachers and coaches and instructors to be able to use AI to build a course through the front end of the website. And so I can't remember what the name of his website was right offhand, but if you went through our Facebook page and looked up Chris Lassiter, I am sure that he would give you a tour or a link or whatever if you messaged him. But he built a front-end course builder, and that front-end course builder was actually connected to AI and gave people like writing assistance in building their courses. That's like next level stuff. And so when someone says, can LifterLMS do? The answer is typically always yes. Emily might smile at me through the screen and agree with me. Like typically the answer is always yes. But then the next part of that answer is, what was your budget and how, what's your budget and your timeline and how committed are you to this idea that you have? Because there's LifterLMS out of the box, and then there's LifterLMS when you really optimize it and put it to work for whatever your project is really intended to do. And of course, the other side of that is, are you funded? Do you have money to do this? Because if you need help doing it, people are going to want to get paid to help you. So, Emily, anything you want to add to that? Because I kind of went crazy. I'm sorry.
No, I mean, you're pretty good. I mean, like Blast Pro used to have a solution, but it's not available anymore to like customize the backend of WordPress, make it look really nice. You can, there's some backend customization plugins still, but that's going to be the easiest way to go. Like Chris Lassiter, like you said, has that solution. I don't know if it's like available on the marketplace somewhere, but I know that he's developed it for a couple of clients, and it just, it just brings the backend WordPress editing screens to the front end with some customized CSS. So that's pretty good. I don't know. You're in a little bit of the Wild West on that one. Front end course creation isn't quite a Lifter LMS availability right now.
Yeah, it was. The other thing that I see that people want to bring to the front end a lot is reporting. I actually just did a project where we moved the reporting function to the front end of the website, and then we created a custom role so that only people with that role would see the information in reporting on that front end page, right? And so the idea there was they had some outside caseworkers. They wanted to give those outside caseworkers the ability to see reporting, but not send them to the back end of the website or give them access to other features inside the back end of the website. And so in that case, we just created a page that was called caseworkers. So name of the website.com/caseworkers. They went to that. If they were logged in, they saw the reporting. If they weren't logged in, they got a message that said only people with this role are able to see this page. And so anyone else that might find that page by mistake wouldn't see the content. They would see you have this role. And obviously they wouldn't have that role. So, blah, 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 blah. So that's how that worked. That worked really, really well. But so a lot of times people will say, oh, I feel restricted. Like, oh, I feel restricted in this platform because it can't. WordPress is completely customizable. So when people say it doesn't do it for free, like out of the box, but with a little work, little help, you can usually get to where you want to be. And more, I am getting exposed to and working with people that are thinking more and more out of the box. Like, how do I do something different? And so that's there. LMA follows up and says, I'm pretty new to LifterLMS. I've been using Docebo. Docebo, get out of town. I used to use Docebo when I was the training manager at Ducati North America. I used to run the training division for Ducati. We were subscribed to Docebo. And when I went to Italy, I got to meet, basically our account managers from Naples. And, when I visited Italy, people would always say, like, all the time. I was in Bologna all the time. So when I would go to Bologna, they would say, oh, I'd say, hey, where's Luca? They would say, oh, Luca is very happy. He has been engaged to a very beautiful girl from Naples. And when I would say, hey, where's Elena? They would say, oh, Elena's not here. She has been engaged to a very beautiful man from Naples. And I got it in my head that I always wanted to go to Naples because apparently that's where all the beautiful people came from. And sure enough, when I got introduced to my caseworker from Naples for Docebo, she was very beautiful. Docebo is a great platform, no design freedom. We worked really, really, really hard to make our platform look like YouTube. We wanted because all of our training was video based, and we wanted it to look like here's your training, but people also looked at these videos over here. Like we wanted it to look like YouTube. And it took a lot of work to make that kind of happen. And it still wasn't what we had really wanted. The flexibility that you get in WordPress to build what you really want to build it's uncanny. And what I've also run into is I've run into people that, let's say, they throw an installation in GoDaddy, they throw an installation on Cloudways, they throw an installation in Hostinger or like whatever, right? And they'll say, oh, this doesn't work. It doesn't work fast enough, or it doesn't give us what we want. Let's face facts. You and I, professionals in the e-learning space, having a conversation about Docebo, you've come in with some budget. You're spending money if you're on that platform. And so when people are working in WordPress and they say they've come up against an obstacle, I have typically taken my enterprise clients from $250,000 a year to around $75,000 or $80,000 a year to run the same learning content, but move them over to WordPress. But in order to do that effectively, and I might be overstepping my bounds here, LMA, but to do that effectively, I've also had to upgrade their hosting. So a lot of these companies that are enterprise level training clients that have, a couple thousand users that are active and all those things, they're on Vulture servers. They've got, higher RAM, they've got more PHP workers. And so you need to understand that if you are new to Lifter and you're new to the WordPress space, but you have a very high expectation for the student experience within your website, Yeah, it's super affordable to have WordPress and load up Lifter and get it to work, design it the way you want it to, but you still might have performance issues if your LMS is at a very high rate of usage. Just know you're not limited, you're not stuck. If you go to lifterlms.com and you do a search for scale or scaling, we put out 2 articles last year on how to effectively scale a Lifter LMS through your server, through your hosting. And so we have a ton of content on how to really address like a corporate level training. Some of the hosting that I take care of for my clients, it might be $500 a month. I've one at $700 a month, but at $700 a month, they're 100% uptime. They are super fast on the front end. The back end is still a little bit slow, in my personal opinion, but they have a lot of customizations and a lot of plugins at work. But on the front end, what the student sees is like hyper fast, like beyond reality fast. And so don't feel like you're locked into something low performance because you're switching from Docebo to WordPress. I know that you're leaving something that cost you a lot of money. And if you spend even less than half of that budget, you're going to have a really great product with WordPress, Lifter LMS, some customizations, even if you have to buy some help, and really awesome hosting. Like you can have the best hosting in the world and still be at a fraction of what you would spend with Docebo. It's a great product. I should be really, really clear. Docebo is a great product. I'm not bashing the product. It's just not cheap. It's just not cheap. It's expensive. We have a new question and a new person on the call. Ben Smith, welcome. We're almost at the hour. I'm going to try and squeeze you in here. It says, is there a best practice for using Elementor Pro with Elementor, or is there a recommended page builder to use with Lifter LMS? You're putting me on the spot, Ben. And Emily might have something completely different to say. We have a lot of people that love Divi. I'm not a Divi fan, right? So I always run the risk of upsetting some people. I have a lot of projects that are still on Elementor. Best practices for Elementor and Elementor Pro. Just my input. Hang me out to dry, I guess. Have a staging site. So have a staging site, do your updates in staging, and if nothing breaks, do your update in production. That's my biggest chunk of advice. It's gotten a lot better. It's gotten tons better. In fact, dare I say it, I should almost say it's fixed. It's not an issue anymore. But if we go back like 2 years ago, if there was a major Elementor update and I allowed that to update on a production site, I would break my website. Drove me absolutely insane because these were customers. I had customers in the situation. So I had to go to this whole staging thing, which is best practice anyway. Just for the record, best practice, if you're an agency, is to always update your customer stuff in staging, make sure everything's good, and then do it in production. But we get lazy and we try to do things quickly. Emily's gone. So we do things quickly. So with Elementor and Elementor Pro, I recommend updating in staging and then in production. If you just meant add the stage, okay, you're back. If you meant, because you say here meant to say Lifter LMS, I still think that's the best thing, is to make your changes in staging and then production. But if it's like adding a course or adding a lesson or adding an access plan, you can do that in production and you're not going to break anything and everything's going to be fine. Is there a recommended page builder with Lifter LMS? We have recommended resources. So if you go to lifterlms.com/recommended-resources, we have a recommended resources page that lists things that we've tested, that we've tried, that we can recommend. I am currently learning Etch. Etch isn't even through the process yet on being fully released. I've used Bricks extensively, and I hated Bricks at first, but I fell in love with it over time. What I seem to like the most, and this is going to sound like I'm with ShamWow commercial for Lifter before we end the call here, is the full site editor with SkyPilot. That's our theme. Works great. I mean, it really does work great. It depends on the level of what you're trying to edit. Depends on how much freedom you're trying to have in a design space. I am great. So we have SkyPilot and we have a tool called Aircraft. Aircraft is like a pattern library and we call it a builder, right? So you're in the WordPress editor, You're leveraging these patterns through the aircraft builder, and you can build out pages that are really well styled, work extremely well, and work phenomenally with LifterLMS because it's designed by us, right? So that, to me, when someone says, "What's your builder?" I say, "Well, Skypilot and aircraft." But I'm also a big fan of Cadence and Astra. I have a lot of sites, a lot of client sites that I manage in Astra Pro that work phenomenally. And Astra Pro gives me access to Spectra and some other tools that Astra has to extend the WordPress editor, same as Cadence. What are your thoughts on builders, Emily, before we close out?
I agree. I think the full site editor, if you haven't built a site already or you're going to rebuild your site, the full site editor is definitely what I recommend. There's a little bit of a learning curve. It's new technology, but if you're building your site now and you're going to, migrate it, eventually upgrade it in 3 to 5 years from now, or maybe even sooner, the technology you're going to be upgrading to is full site editing. So if you're in that initiation phase, I would do that. If you know a page builder super well, you have project requirements that have you on a deadline, and you're like, I know Elementor inside and out, and I got to get this project done in 1 month. Maybe Elementor is going to be what you go with. But a lot of reputable page builders out there, my recommendation for like a holistic approach at this point is that block editor and full site editing. In 2025, the free WordPress theme or Skypilot from Lifter.
My biggest fear with Elementor or Bricks is a client gets in, because remember, I come at this from the agency perspective. A client gets in, thinks they're making some quick change on the website, hits save in the WordPress editor, and blows out the formatting for all the pages. And then you get that panicked email with, your hosting sucks and my website's broken. And then you go in and you're like, did you change this? Did you click save here? Yeah, you broke it. All we have to do is resave it in Elementor, resave it in Bricks. But if you can't trust your customers to leave stuff alone, then I really encourage people to stay within the block editor or full site editing. And that's just where I'm at with that. So I think that's going to wrap it up. We're into overtime. So folks, I appreciate your participation. I'm really glad you came today. I'm just going to say, if anyone's hearts are heavy after the news yesterday, it's going to get better. That's all I can say. Have a great one. See you next week. And end.